Hello everyone! Today for learning how to use QuickBooks for freelance professionals, small business owners, and other creative entrepreneurs. I love helping small business owners, freelancers, and other entrepreneurs and startups get to really know their numbers, feel empowered, and feel confident with their whole bookkeeping. I love taking a holistic approach to bookkeeping and really seeing it as analyzing the whole health of a business. I'm a QuickBooks certified ProAdvisor, and I love using QuickBooks Online. I think it's such a great, powerful tool for business owners, and it's a really robust program. However, I know it can also be very overwhelming. As a business owner myself, when I was first starting out and I needed to do my own record keeping, I also felt very overwhelmed using the QuickBooks Online software. I realized that a lot of tutorials do exist out there, but a lot of the training courses and tutorials available online were a little bit over my head and still didn't give me a very good idea as to where to start. That's why I really wanted to make this course for all of you, so that if you're just starting out and you're a beginner with QuickBooks, even if you have done bookkeeping and other programs before, you'll get to go step by step with me through the process of how to use QuickBooks Online so you can feel very confident with this very powerful tool. In this course, we're going to follow along through simple steps and activities, and then you are going to get to practice and do a test drive in a QuickBooks fictional profile. I will be giving you small tasks to perform in the sample QuickBooks Online profile, which is really set up so that you can play around without being afraid of making mistakes or messing up your real books. This helps to take the pressure off and allows you to see how tasks that you perform in QuickBooks Online affects different financial information that gets recorded. Now, this is going to be a hands-on course, and for those new to QuickBooks Online, you don't need a current QuickBooks Online subscription in order to complete the activities in this course. You will be able to continue playing around with a sample business profile after this course. You're still going to wind up forming a deeper knowledge and understanding of what bookkeeping is all about. I hope that you'll join me and see how easy it is to do your own bookkeeping and record keeping using QuickBooks Online. Thanks. Welcome back, everyone. Now that you've had some time to reflect, we're going to dive into some basic bookkeeping fundamentals. Let's start with some bookkeeping basics and learn just how bookkeepers record transactions. So when you get paid for sales or services that you provide, you make business income, also known as revenue. When you pay for any purchases for your business, those are business expenses. Your business income minus your business expenses is how much net profit or net loss that you make. In any accounting software, data entry happens when a business transaction occurs. You may have heard of the term cash flow before. Cash flow is literally what it sounds like. It is money that is flowing into or out of your business. When bookkeepers use accounting software, we're analyzing each transaction as they occur, and we're making a decision about how to categorize that transaction. I'm going to explain more on that later. But for now, it's important to understand that in its most basic form, accounting is the recording of cash flowing into or out of your business, most often in the form of income coming in when you get paid by a customer or expenses going out when you pay for things for your business. So what might be considered a business expense? Well, here's a short list of the most common business expenses. If you're unsure if something is a business expense or not, please check with your tax preparer. A few things to note here. Office supplies can include more than just pens and paper. Your website subscription, other computer or software costs, and such can be categorized under office expenses. You can also expense shipping and postage. Other expenses include job supplies, which are supplies that you need to perform your job or make your product, business insurance, which we should all definitely have, maintenance and repairs, especially if you have a brick and mortar, legal fees and professional fees, and this could also include any membership fees to professional organizations, advertising, which we all know a lot about, accounting, of course, any independent contractors that you hire, and it's always important to remember if you pay that independent contractor $600 or more for the calendar year, then you want to issue them a 1099. Also, payroll expenses as well as employee wages are common business expenses. Vehicle expenses, phone, utility, rent or mortgage, and lastly, meals. Now, this is a tricky one. It's important to remember that meals means those purchased at cafes or restaurants when business is being conducted. An example of this would be meeting at a cafe to go over your bookkeeping with your accountant or taking a client out to dinner. There are some additional business expenses not listed here that you may be able to take, so you always want to check with your accountant or tax preparer to see what other expenses might pertain to your particular industry. Now I want to switch gears here for a moment and talk about some accounting principles. You may have heard of GAAP before. It stands for the Generally Accepted Accounting Principles. It's a common set of principles that we all adhere to in the accounting and bookkeeping world. Within this is the basic accounting equation. It's represented here as assets equals liabilities plus owner's equity. Assets are things like cash, your accounts receivable, and any fixed assets of your business. Liabilities are your accounts payable, any business loans you have, and business debts. Owner's equity is generally the equity you have in your business, but it's expressed here, it's made up of owner's contributions minus your owner's distributions plus revenue minus expenses. Now, since liabilities are simply business debt that you have, I want you to remember equations from back in high school, because another way to think of this equation is that your assets minus your liabilities equals the amount of equity that you have in your business. Let's also talk for a moment about the difference between cash basis and accrual basis accounting, because when you set up QuickBooks, you'll have to decide which one your business operates under. Cash basis means that you record income when you receive it and you record expenses when you pay them. Accrual means that income gets recorded when the invoice gets sent to the customer. Expenses get recorded when the bill is received, not when the bill is actually paid. So accrual normally deals with accounts receivable and accounts payable. Now, this is one more important factor before we jump into how to do your own bookkeeping in QuickBooks, and it has to do with your bank accounts. It is super important to separate your personal spending from your business and to have separate bank accounts, those for your business and those for your personal use. And once they are separated, get into the habit of only using your business bank accounts for business income and business purchases. Although the IRS does not require that you have separate bank accounts, separating your accounts is the best business practice, which will make bookkeeping way easier and will ensure that you are properly categorizing those transactions. If you do not want to open a business bank account, you can simply open a separate personal bank account that you only use to deposit money from customers and pay for business purchases. Here's an example of some common business accounts you might have. Now, you may be wondering how to pay yourself as an owner of your business if you have business banking accounts. And the answer is pretty simple. If you do have business banking accounts and you are either a sole proprietorship or a single member LLC, all you have to do is just take money from the business account and put it into your personal account. And you can do that in a few different ways. One way is you can do a bank transfer. You can also set up an automatic bank transfer to happen on a reoccurring basis. Or you can write yourself a check from the business account to your personal account. Or you can even go to the ATM and just take out a withdrawal. And what you want to do is in that memo line, you want to write owner pay or owner payout. You can also use the term owner draw if you want. It all kind of means the same thing. So go ahead and do that, and then you're all set to go. You want to make sure that on the QuickBook end of things, it also gets recorded on the books in the QuickBooks system. Lastly, before we dive into the QuickBooks demo, I want to talk about what chart of accounts are. Your chart of accounts is really the heart of your bookkeeping systems. When you use bookkeeping software, this is the list of accounts that all your transactions get categorized into. When you set up QuickBooks Online, one of the first things you're going to do is make sure your chart of accounts is set up correctly and the account types that you're going to categorize transactions to are in line with the type of business you have and will fit your needs for organizing your income and expenses into neat little drawers in your virtual filing cabinet. Go back to the accounting formula that I showed you before if you need to, and you'll see that the chart of accounts are organized into those main categories. Asset accounts will consist of business assets like inventory, a work vehicle, or expensive work equipment, like a $3,000 3D laser printer that you use for your business. Typically, these are fixed assets that are depreciable, so if you have anything like that, you'll want to get some help from your accountant when setting those up in QuickBooks. Liabilities would be things like loans or other business debt that you have. Owner contributions and owner distributions would be classified as equity accounts under the type of accounts, which I'll get to later when I show you how to get things set up in QuickBooks. An owner contribution is when you're investing money in your own business. It's not counted as income. As we described before, an owner distribution is when you're taking money out of your business, like when you're doing a payout. There are two other main account types that will be listed in your chart of accounts, and that is the income and the expenses. You can have just one income account called sales income, or if you have multiple types of services you offer or goods you sell, you may want to set up several income accounts. For example, if you're an author who gets paid for public speaking events, you may want to have one income account called book sales and another income account called public speaking services. For income and expenses, you can also have sub-accounts set up in the chart of accounts. For example, if you're an artist that paints portraits of dogs, cats, and people, you could have 3 different sub-accounts. You would have a main account called portrait services, and then you would have one called dog services, cat services, and people services. Or you could also call it dog portraits, cat portraits. And so you'll set that up, and that way if somebody, for example, pays you for a painting of a dog, then you would go into QuickBooks, you would record that under dog portraits, and then when you did your profit and loss statement for your financial reporting, you would be able to see what portion of your income came from doing portraits of dogs versus portraits of cats and portraits of people. So you could really start to see where you were earning more income and what your most popular services were. And you can also do the same thing for expense accounts. So for example, you could have a main expense account called office supply expenses, and then you could have sub-accounts called computer and software expenses, and one called postage and shipping. That way you're really able to set a budget and see where you're spending the most money. So now that you know a lot of bookkeeping basics, please meet me in the next video and we're going to be able to take a test drive of the QuickBooks system. I'll see you there. Welcome back, everyone. Real quick, I want to show you the differences in the QuickBooks Online subscription levels. Now, I don't want to bore you with too many details, so if you don't want to hear about the subscription levels, go ahead and fast forward. So we've got some different levels here for you to choose from. QuickBooks Self-Employed is designed for self-employed freelancers to track their income and expenses on their own and automatically connects this information into TurboTax Self-Employed when it's time to do your taxes. It's ideal for those working in the gig economy, for example, those driving for Uber or DoorDash, doing work as an independent contractor, or where your record keeping is very, very simple. QuickBooks is often running promotions for this service, including free trials and discounts on TurboTax. As of 2021, this level costs $750 per month. The main con is that this is a very basic system and does not let you do much. The Simple Start is perfect for most service-based businesses such as graphic designers, interior designers, photographers, massage therapists, musicians, and more. We are now starting to see features we can use to track the income we receive from clients, the ability to create invoices and produce financial statements that will really start giving us information we can use to make decisions for our business. QuickBooks Essentials is very similar to Simple Start, except here you can now have accounts payable, which you can use to pay bills to vendors. You can also add more users, for example, if you have a business partner. You can do time tracking and set up multi-currency. You can also set up recurring transactions. QuickBooks Plus is for larger businesses, those in retail and manufacturing that need to track inventory, and those with more employees on their team. There's also an advanced version, but we are going to focus primarily on the Simple Start and the Essentials here in this training, since this is a beginner's. Now, don't worry if you don't know what subscription level you want. We all have growing businesses, and the great news is that you can upgrade at any time that you want. So you want to think about what your business needs are now, and as you grow your business, what challenges you might face in the future and in what areas you might need support. Let's take a look at how you set up QuickBooks to begin with. And I just want to mention that you're going to get a downloadable PDF of all of these slides, so don't worry about needing to jot all this down. This is what your accounts and settings page is going to look like, and I'll show you how to get into this using the gear icon. Here you can set up all your company information, view your billing and usage, set up sales, expenses, payment methods, and some advanced features that I'll show you. On the settings page under company, you can upload your logo, put in all your company information, and even put in your tax ID number. Okay, so we covered a lot of information so far. Are you ready to take a test drive? Let's go. In this test drive, we're going to get to learn how to use the gear icon, the navigation bar, and the new button to get around. Over on the left, you'll see the link that you're going to copy and paste into your web browser in order to access the sample company profile. A few recommendations. It's recommended that you use Google Chrome browser when you're using QuickBooks Online. A few tips. Keeping 2 tabs open can help to switch between screens when you're performing bookkeeping. And also, if you have data entry to do or multiple things to view, 2 monitors really works best. You can pause this video while you get set up in the sample company. I'll meet you there. So we are now on the home page of our sample profile. This is also known as the dashboard. Because the home page automatically opens when you open QuickBooks Online, it directs the small business owner to review key metrics about their business. This is a good thing. Too often, small business owners and staff enter transactions but don't really look at their results until tax time, and then it could be too late to make crucial decisions. You can also go over to the right and put on the privacy setting if you don't want someone to see your financial data. Let's first go to the top right and click on the gear icon. Let's click on Accounts and Settings. And here you'll see where you can set up your company name by clicking on the pencil, your logo, and your tax ID number. If you don't have a tax ID number, you can use your social. You can also put in company type, which would be your tax information and type of industry that you're in, and other contact information. There's usage limits, information on sales income, expenses, and in the advanced settings, you can set your chart of accounts specifications, time tracking, what type of currency you use, and other preferences regarding formatting. Let's close out. Now from the gear icon, we're going to select Manage Users. Here you can add users to your account and decide what level of access you want them to have. For example, if you add an accountant or want a team member to just have access to sending out or paying invoices, you can do that here. You would select the Add User button and you'll be guided through entering their information, deciding the level of access you want them to have, and sending them an email invitation to join as a user. Let's click the gear icon again, and the last thing I want to show you is Chart of Accounts. Now, we mentioned Chart of Accounts before, and we talked about why it was so important. The Chart of Accounts are really the fundamentals of your record keeping, and if you feel uncertain about it, this is where you want to ask your accountant any questions about which transactions should be getting categorized into which accounts. You will want to spend a bit of time here in the beginning, setting things up, making sure all the income and expense accounts you commonly use in your business are listed and are named in a way that's easily recognizable and identifiable to you. You may also want to make sure there are no duplicate accounts so your income and expense tracking can be neatly organized without splitting similar transactions between 2 different accounts and having things not be clear. So if we want to add something here, we're going to go to New, and this is where we can add another account to our chart of accounts. So under Account Type, we're going to go ahead and add an income account. We'll click on Detail Type, and we'll say that this is sales of product income. So we're selling a product here. Before, I used the example of painting portraits, so that's what we're going to name this. I don't want this to be a sub-account, so I'm not going to check this box. And you don't really have to put anything under description. That's just if you want more details for yourself. And then I'll hit save and close. And now you can see, if you scroll down, there's my portrait painting chart of accounts that I've created. Now, as I mentioned, if there's something on here that you don't want to be on here, maybe we don't want the pest control services, we're going to come over and click on the arrow, and we're just going to click make inactive. So we can't delete something from chart of accounts, but what we can do is make it inactive. Now that one just gave me a message that in this system it's already in use. So since it already has active things recorded in it, it may not let me inactivate that. So let's find another one here that it might let me deactivate. We'll try disposal fees. Okay, that one worked. So that's something that's important to mention. Not all of these you can make inactive. For example, you really want to have an owner contribution and an owner distribution equity account. And then you do need some sort of sales or services income account. Now let's say here under automobile, we have an expense account, and you can see right here the one for fuel is indented inward. That means that one is a sub-account of automobile for our vehicle expenses. Let's add another sub-account and let's call it vehicle repairs. So I'm going to scroll back up. I'm going to hit new, and it brings me to that screen again. And I'm going to go down and select expenses because it's an expense account. And here's auto. Now we'll call this auto repairs. And I am going to select that it's a sub-account. And as I said, it's going to be a sub-account of auto. So I scroll down, there's my automobile. I select that, save and close. And now when I scroll down to automobile, you'll see now it's also indented. So auto repairs and fuel are the two sub-accounts of the automobile expense account. So go ahead and spend some time playing around with this. You can make different income and expense accounts inactive. You can add sub-accounts. You can think up and add other accounts and just kind of get comfortable here. Now let's take a look at the navigation bar. The navigation bar contains most of the functions that you'll need to use to get your bookkeeping done. Let's go first over to the banking tab. All right, everyone, so back in our sample company, we're going to go and learn how to use the navigation bar here. By clicking on the banking tab, you'll be walked through how to link your own business checking, savings, and credit card accounts when you get your QuickBooks subscription. But for now, in the sample profile, we'll just be using the checking, savings, and MasterCard that are set up here to get to practice categorizing some of these transactions. When you're doing it for your own QuickBooks, you'll want to follow the prompts to get your bank accounts linked so that your banking transactions can be updated in real time and you can easily record all of these transactions. I'll show you how to practice recording transactions in the next video sections. You'll also want to get familiar with the Sales tab and the Expenses tab. For those new to QuickBooks, these two tabs are where you're going to spend most of your time in the beginning getting comfortable. Let's go back to that Sales tab, and I want to show you what's under here. In the overview, you can see it shows me an overview of my income, some key metrics. If I go to all sales, I can view all of my sales transactions. I can look and see if I have any outstanding estimates, any unbilled activity. So unbilled activity are unbilled charges if you plan to bill a customer later, but you haven't included it in a saved invoice. You can see invoices that are overdue, open invoices that have not yet been paid, and your paid invoices. There's also more invoice information here. You can set up payment links, keep lists of customers, which is really handy if you like to send out customer statements at the end of the year, and keep inventory of your products and services. Let's go down to expenses. And here under expenses, I can search by different expense transactions that I've entered over time. So these are a list of all of the different vendors that I've paid for business purchases. And if you're doing accounts payable, you can have purchase orders and really handy accounts payable vendors lists here. I also want to make you aware of the mileage tab because QuickBooks does have a mileage app to track your vehicle mileage, and you could go ahead and sync it with your QuickBooks Online. Taxes is for tax time, and then reports is where you're going to find your financial reports, and I'll show you how to do that later. We'll work on the profit and loss statement toward the end of this video. Now, QuickBooks does not automatically give you payroll. Payroll is a separate add-on that you have to pay for separately, but there is a payroll system here and also something for setting up contractors, such as those independent contractors I mentioned. Under the accounting tab, you can also get into the chart of accounts here, and I'll show you later how to reconcile your accounts as well. Now let's go up to the New button. And if you click on the New button from the navigation bar, this button is a shortcut to get into the many forms you may want to create, like invoices, estimates, and the Receive Payment button, which we'll all cover in the next videos. We'll also be learning about creating sales receipts and bank deposits. As a beginner, I want you to get familiar with these first, but you can see as you become more skilled, you can also issue refund receipts, credit memos, pay bills, have employees enter their time, record credit card payments, and more. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you in the next video where we'll talk about creating estimates, invoices, and customer receipts. Hi, welcome back. In this video, we are going to talk about all things getting paid. You will learn how to create customer invoices, create customer receipts, record the income that you earn, and even how to create estimates. First, since I know many of you are creative types just like me, you are going to learn how to customize your own forms using QuickBooks Online. I'll see you there. Okay, here I am under my sample company in QuickBooks. I'm going to go ahead and navigate to the gear icon, and on the left you'll see Custom Form Styles. This is where I'm going to be able to save custom form templates that I'm going to want to use for my business. Under New Style, you'll see that there's 3 options for customizing forms. You can customize your own invoices, estimates, and sales receipts. Now, it's important to note that if your customer paid for a product or service at the time of sale, you want to give them a sales receipt. Otherwise, if the customer plans to pay you in the future, send them an invoice. Let's start with creating the invoice. You can see here under Design, you can rename your template, anything that you'd like. And under Dive In with Template, you have a few options for the look and style of your templates. I'm going to go with Modern. Under Logo, you can upload your own business logo. And click Save. You can see when I uploaded the logo, it actually tried to match the colors present in my logo to kind of create the look and feel of my business. I like that, so I'm going to leave it looking like that. But you can also change the placement of your logo, and you can change the size. You can also quickly save this template and then go in and hide the logo at any time if you don't want a particular customer to get your logo on the invoice. There are other color options available. These ones are presets that QuickBooks provides. Otherwise, you can put in your own color code. There aren't a ton of font choices that QuickBooks gives you, but you have a few here, and of course the font size. Now, when you want to preview the invoice, go ahead to Preview PDF, and it's going to pop up here in a second window. So this is what the invoice is going to look like that your customer is going to receive. Now, we still want to go ahead and edit some of the information on our invoice. So we're going to go to Content, click the pencil. You can go ahead and edit business name, phone number, email address. You can put in your actual physical address or your website, form names, and then shipping terms and due date for the invoice. This pencil lets you change the information in any of the columns and which columns you want to be present on the invoice. You can also go ahead and edit the widths. Finally, on the bottom, you can edit the footer. You can change the message that they're going to receive, the size of it, and you can add other footer text. Under emails, you can also decide what the email looks like that the customer will receive. So far, it's showing me a preview of what it's going to look like, but I can change the amount of details that are going to be on it, if I want the PDF attached or not, and also, again, a subject line and message to the customer in the email. Go ahead and spend some time playing around in this, and when you're ready, save your changes. And you'll see that your changes appear here under the Save Template. You can do the same thing to custom create your estimates and your sales receipts. And for my sales receipts, I always like to create a sales receipt that looks a little bit different from my invoice. So when customers receive it, they're able to tell right away which ones are the invoices and which ones are the receipts. So for this one, since it's going to be my receipt, I'm going to go ahead and make it a different color and click Done. So there you see my saved invoice and my saved sales receipt. Go ahead and spend some time playing around with this. Now it's your turn to practice turning an estimate into an invoice. You can go ahead and pause the video here, go into QuickBooks Online, and take some time to practice. You can come back when you're ready. When you do come back, we'll get to see what happens when a customer pays an invoice. So now that we've designed the look and feel of our templates, let's start by learning how to create an estimate. An estimate is a quote you provide a customer for products or services. Once it's been saved in QuickBooks, it can be turned into an invoice if the customer decides to accept your quote. Estimates are not recorded as income in QuickBooks. In order to make an estimate, we're going to go to the navigation bar and select the New button and then select Estimate. We'll fill out the estimate and we'll be able to either save it for later or hit Save and Send if we want it emailed to the customer. Let's go into QuickBooks and see how this is done. Here we are in our sample company. I'm going to navigate up to the New button and select Estimate. Here you see the window where I can put in the estimate information. There are some preset customers in the sample profile. I'm going to select Diego. And you can see it auto-populated his email address and billing address. The estimate date listed on this form is July 29th, so I'm going to give it an expiration date of 1 month from then. We'll go with August 29. Under service date, I'm going to put the projected date that I would perform this service. If you don't know what that date is, that's okay. And we're going to say that the service that I'm providing is garden lighting. Quantity, if this is a product, would mean the number of units or products you're selling. Otherwise, if this is a service, that might mean the number of hours. I'm going to put down 2 hours for the estimated amount of time. at a rate of $40 an hour. You can see that I already totaled the amount as $80. You can add tax, a discount percentage for this service, and there's our estimated total. You can also go ahead and attach a message to the estimate here. So now you have the option to either save this or save it and automatically send it to the customer. So now we've created a few estimates for customers in QuickBooks. These customers have now agreed to the estimate amount, and we're going to now go ahead and turn this into an invoice so that we can invoice the customer for the amount that we're charging. We're going to go ahead to the navigation bar and we'll go into the sales section and select the sales tab. We will then select estimate, and under the estimate setting, we'll be able to view all the estimates we created and then go over to action and create invoice. We will then get to review it and either save it for later or save and email it out to the customer. Let's see how this is done. From my dashboard, I'm going to go to my navigation section and to sales and select all sales. From here on this bar, you can see estimates over on the left, and this lists all of the outstanding estimates that I have. Here's the one that I created for Diego and a second one that I created. Let's do Diego's first. Diego just accepted my estimate. So I'll go over to create invoice. And here's all of the information that I put in before. I've got the choice now that if something has changed since that time, I can now edit it before saving the invoice. So let's say I spoke with Diego and it's actually going to take 4 hours to perform the service for him instead of 2. I'm going to go ahead and change that to 4, and you can see how that changed the amount. So let's save this and send the invoice out to Diego. Before I send it, you can see here I can preview the subject line and message that Diego is going to receive along with the invoice. Once I'm happy with it, I can hit send and close, and you can also print this out for your records. It's okay if it says email not sent. It's just because this is a sample company, so the customers aren't actually receiving the email right now. Now let's go ahead and practice the same for the second one that I did here for a customer called Cool Cars. Under the arrow, you'll also see, by the way, that there's a few other options here to print it if you'd like, update the status of this estimate if the amount or some of the information has changed, or copy it to create a second one. Again, I'll hit create invoice. Here's my invoice. I'm happy with the way it looks. So this one I'm just going to save without sending out via email. So that has now turned into an invoice and it's saved. You can see here the invoice number attached. Just close out of the window. And now you'll see the dollar amount has changed under estimates. I no longer have any estimates listed because I've taken those outstanding estimates and turned them into invoices. So instead now, if you go to the Invoices tab, you can check your work and you can find the customer for the invoice that you created. Here's the one that I just created for Cool Cars and the one that I created for Diego. And you'll see that the terms of this invoice are that they're due in 30 days. Now, if you didn't need to send an estimate to a customer, let me show you how to just create a new invoice. You're going to navigate over to Sales, Invoices, and here you'll see the green Create Invoice button. Go ahead and click on that. And our invoice window pops up. It looks very similar to the estimate window. We're going to go ahead and select a customer name. You can add a new one if you'd like. Otherwise, the ones already entered in here will auto-populate. Change the billing address if you need to. And the terms mean how long the customer has to pay this invoice. You can make it due on receipt, add your own custom terms, or use one of the pre-filled ones. I'll put it on 60 days. So the due date for this will be 60 days. Under the service date, you can enter a date or leave it blank if you'd like. I'll put a service date of August 1st. And for this product and service, let's go with design. We'll change the rate here. And there's my total. So again, you can choose to include a message on the invoice. You can attach documents to this, and you can choose to save it or save and send. You can see my invoices always have a number that generates automatically, so that way you can keep track of all your invoices. So now you've created a few invoices and sent them out to customers, and a few of those customers have paid you. This part is very important. When a customer pays an invoice through QuickBooks, the invoice gets marked as paid automatically and the customer gets sent a receipt. Do not then go into QuickBooks and create a sales receipt for them. Otherwise, you will be recording your income twice and this will screw up your bookkeeping. When the money has been deposited into your account, you're going to go into the banking tab from the navigation bar, and I'll show you how to match the deposit transaction to the invoice. Let's go to Sales and click the Invoice tab. Under the status, we want to select Paid. Let's say you got an email from Freeman Sporting Goods that they just paid one of their invoices. You can scroll down and click on the green Paid button. This will open up a window to your right and show you the status of the payment. You can see here that it has been paid, but it has not yet been deposited into your bank account. When a customer makes a payment through QuickBooks, it typically takes 3 to 5 business days before the money hits your account. Now, let's click on this one by Travis Waldron for the amount of $103.55. You can see this has been deposited, and the invoice number associated with this payment is 1009. So, since this has recently been deposited and should be showing up as a transaction in my banking, I'm going to now go over to my banking screen and match this invoice to the transaction so I can complete recording this invoice. Remember, this is an important step in the process. You are not done once you get paid. You need to do this last step of matching the invoice to the transaction that shows up in your bank feed. Let's find this invoice for Travis Waldron, and here you can see the amount matches $103.55. I click on the row, and you don't want to hit match just yet. You want to make sure that the payment that QuickBooks is finding is the correct payment associated with this transaction. So I'm going to go ahead and click the payment reference number. Now it's your turn to practice finding some of the invoices that have been deposited and matching them in the bank feed. Okay, so now that you've gotten the hang of that, let's say that a customer just wrote you a check today to pay an invoice, but they did not pay it through QuickBooks since they gave you a check after all. So the QuickBooks system does not know about the payment yet, and it is not yet recorded as paid on your books. What we're going to do is go over to the New button, and we're going to go to Receive Payment. You see this has generated a very similar looking window. The customer who paid us was Sushi by Katsuyuki. I'm going to select that. And you'll see down here that it's already pulled up some outstanding invoices that this customer had. Now, as I mentioned, the customer paid by check. So under Payment Method, I'm going to select Check. And reference number is only if you want to put in something like the check number or some other sort of reference number that will make you recognize which transaction this is and be able to organize it. I'm going to put in the check number of 102. And this part is very important. See this section that says undeposited funds? We want to deposit this check into undeposited funds for now. Think of undeposited funds as a wallet that you put all your checks into until you're ready to go to the bank. It is like a temporary holding drawer that you are putting in all the payments you receive throughout the day or until the end of the week when you are actually ready to go to the bank and deposit that lump sum of payments you've received. I know that undeposited funds can be a little tricky to understand, but it's really important to see how undeposited funds work. Let's take an example. Say that you're a nail salon technician and you charge $60 to do nails. You have 10 customers that day. Each customer comes in and pays you, let's say via Venmo, to do their nails. You don't sit there and individually make 10 different deposits from Venmo into your account. Instead, what you do is you wait until the end of the day and then you deposit that lump sum, which would be $600, into your checking account, preferably your business checking account. So that's kind of like undeposited funds. It's that holding place for all of the money until you are able to actually make that transfer or deposit into your actual bank account. Once it's deposited in that lump sum, you've got all 10 transactions, which you're going to send 10 sales receipts to 10 different customers, hopefully, and that's going to be recorded as one deposit for $600 in QuickBooks. So we're going to go ahead and make that bank deposit in a little bit, and I'll show you how, and then you'll see how the undeposited funds matches with the actual amount that's deposited in your bank account. Going back to our receive payment window, we are now going to select the invoice that this customer paid. We see here that they have 2 outstanding invoices with us, both for $80. We're going to say that they paid both of these invoices, so we will select both boxes. You can see here in the upper right-hand corner, it says the amount received was $160. If that does not match the amount you received, you can go ahead and change it. Let's say that the check I received was only for $120. When I put that in, right down here under payment, it changed the amount from $80 to $40 to reflect that difference. That means that when I go to save and new, this customer is still going to have an outstanding balance of $40. We're going to go ahead and click save and new, and we're going to close out of this window. You can check your work by going to Sales, Invoices, and under Status, go to Paid. You should see the transactions recorded here. Here's the one that was partially paid and the other one that was fully paid. You can also record receiving payments in the sales screen by going over here and clicking the Receive Payment button. It's already highlighted for me, and I'm going to hit Save and New again and close out. Now that one is recorded as paid. So now you've learned how to create estimates, invoices, and record the invoices as paid. Now I want to show you what to do if you never created an invoice for a client to begin with and you just want to give them a sales receipt and record the payment. Similar to an invoice, a sales receipt provides customers with a detailed description of the products or services that they have purchased. Invoices are issued to request payment from a customer. Sales receipts are used when the customer pays for the services or products without being issued an invoice. One important thing to note is that you should not create a sales receipt for a customer in QuickBooks if you've already issued them an invoice. Otherwise, you'll be recording the income received twice, and this will screw up your books. Creating a sales receipt serves several purposes. It provides your customer with the details of exactly what they purchased, along with the proof of payment. Creating the sales receipt also records the revenue in your income statement. Finally, the sales receipt records the customer payment and places it in undeposited funds until the next bank deposit is made. We're going to go to the New button and select Sales Receipt. Here's our window. We're going to say our customer is Bill's Windsurf Shop. Here's his information, and you can change the date if you need to. Under Payment Method, we're going to say that Bill paid us in cash. Because it was cash, we don't have to put a reference number. Now, under Product and Service, let's say that we did gardening for him. Weekly gardening service, and we did this for 5 hours. Our rate was $25 an hour, And there's the total amount, $125. You can again write a note to the client if you'd like, and you can even attach a document. So if you don't want to use QuickBooks to create invoices and you have a different program such as Invoice Maker or another app where you do that, that's okay. You can just use QuickBooks to make sales receipts, and then you can attach different invoices or other forms right here. So now I'm happy with the way this looks. I'm going to go over and save this and send it to the client. So again, you can change the sales receipt custom form in that custom form under the gear icon like I showed you. And here you can change the body of the message if you'd like. So we'll hit send and close. And of course, this is a sample profile, so it's not actually sent to him via email. And that's all it takes to create a sales receipt. Okay, so you got a chance to practice making some sales receipts. Now let's pretend you actually went down to the bank and you've made this deposit. Let's go into QuickBooks and let's go ahead and record things on the QuickBooks end so that it matches up with your bank statement. We are going to take the transactions sitting in our undeposited funds and create a bank deposit for them. Here are the instructions that you'll get to download. We'll be doing that through the New button and selecting Bank Deposit. Let's go into our QuickBooks screen and we're going to hit New, and over here on the right, Bank Deposit. Now you can see all of the sales receipts that I made in practice. I'm going to select all of them. And remember my example from before. We're only really going to be selecting the transactions from the customers we want to include in this group deposit so that it matches what actually got deposited in the bank. So I'm going to say that I did deposit all three of those in the bank at the same time, and this amount, $229.80, is going to match the deposit amount on my bank statement so that when I'm in that banking screen, I'll be able to match these two and everything's going to match up really nice and neatly. All right, that's all it takes. So I'm going to hit Save and New, and that's saved and I can close out. So you learned a lot so far about recording business revenue in this video. Go ahead and take some time to practice, and in the next video, we'll learn about recording business expenses. I'll see you then. Welcome back, everyone. In this video, we're going to talk about recording business expenses. Let's dive in. So we talked a little bit already about the banking screen and how you are going to link your business bank accounts and business credit cards to the QuickBooks Online system so your banking feed shows up and you can categorize these transactions, assigning them to the correct chart of accounts. Let's go into QuickBooks and let's navigate over to the banking screen. Your goal every month is to categorize all of these bank feed transactions so that there is nothing left for review. For example, in the beginning of July, you should make sure all of the June transactions have been categorized. Then, in the beginning of August, make sure that all of the July transactions are done, and so on. You can also do this more often if you want, but you do have to make sure it gets done before you try to reconcile your bank accounts or create reports, otherwise the reports will be off. Go ahead over to Date Range, and we're going to click on All Dates and put in the date range June 1st to June 30th. Click Apply. Now it's showing us what's left to categorize for the month of June. If you go over to Date, you can click the little arrow and you'll see it'll put it in order for me according to date. Now let's click on the first one for Hicks Hardware. Go ahead and click on the row. Don't hit Add yet. This was a business expense for Hicks Hardware. You can see that QuickBooks wants to suggest which account this should be categorized in. Unfortunately, the QuickBooks AI usually does not guess correctly, so you do need to manually check each one of these and confirm it's getting recorded in the correct account. We're going to change this to maintenance and repair account. There we go. So now it's going to get categorized into maintenance and repair expenses. And let's say this was for fixing drywall in my office. I'm going to write drywall repairs in the memo line. This will help jog my memory later when I'm doing my taxes. Click Add and you're all done. Let's check our work by going over to the Expenses tab. Here under Filter, you can filter by date, type of transaction, or the person you paid. Let's go ahead and put in Hicks Hardware. And you can see it pops up automatically. I'm going to hit Apply. And you can see the transaction that I just put in is right here for drywall repairs. Then you can go back to the banking screen and play around with categorizing more of these transactions until you get comfortable. Take some time to practice, and then I'll show you a few more features in the banking screen. So back in the banking screen, just to review, you are clicking Add to record these transactions which were previously unrecorded on your books. You are clicking Match when you are matching this transaction to an invoice, bill, or receipt that's already in the QuickBooks system. Record as transfer is only when you're moving funds between two accounts owned by the same entity. You won't transfer very often, and when you do, it will be between two business bank accounts. Record as credit card payment is only for when you're recording paying off a credit card, and so you will also not use this very often. The only other thing I want to show you is if there are transactions you know you had, but they're not yet showing up in this bank feed, hit the Update tab. That should resync your accounts and give you the most up-to-date information. Lastly, I want to show you that there is a receipt function where you can upload your expense receipts via files on your computer, Google Drive, or set up receipt forwarding directly from your email. They'll show up here and you can review them and match them to the correct transaction in your bank feed. Now that you've gotten to learn about setting up QuickBooks and recording income and expenses, in the next video, you're going to learn about matching your bank statement to what's been recorded in QuickBooks so that there are no errors, and we will also talk about creating financial statements. Welcome back. In this last video, we're going to talk about bank reconciliations, profit and loss statements, and making a monthly to-do list to keep us organized. First, let's talk about why reconciling your bank statement with the QuickBooks transactions that you recorded is so important. Here's an example of a bank statement, which you can download a PDF of from your bank. Some banks even allow you to upload your bank statements right into QuickBooks. You'll need the statement to reconcile your books. Bank reconciliations confirm that payments have been processed and deposit amounts match what's actually on your books. It's a control for error to help you make sure everything's correct. Here's what the Bank Reconcile screen looks like in QuickBooks. Let's go there now. From the home page, go to the navigation bar and select Accounting, then select Reconcile. Select the bank account you want to reconcile. Let's go ahead and do checking. Now, from your bank statement, first make sure this beginning balance amount matches. Then you're going to enter the ending balance from your statement and your statement ending date. Now, because this is a sample company, we can't really reconcile the books. So I'm just going to go ahead and enter the same balance amount here of $5,000 and put an ending date of June 30th. Then I hit Start Reconciling. Now, what you want to look for is up here in the upper right-hand corner. You want to have that green check mark and a difference of 0. If it's not 0, you're going to have to go ahead and go down this list of transactions and select or deselect different transactions until you can get the balance to 0. If something doesn't seem right, you can select the little arrow here, and you can either save for later or close without saving. That'll allow you to go back and make edits to your books and then come back and try and reconcile the bank accounts. If the difference is 0 and everything looks great, then you can go ahead and click the green Finish Now button. Great, and you're all done. Now there's a lot of financial reports that QuickBooks allows us to make, But because this is a beginner's video, I just want to focus on the profit and loss statement for now. In future videos, I'll talk about other financial reports that you can create. At the end of the month, you may be wondering how you did. As a business owner, it's important to know what percentage of your income is coming from which services you offer, how much you should budget for certain expenses, and if you have enough cash flow to hire an employee or expand your operation. Creating reports and financial statements not only provides necessary information for preparing your taxes, but also helps you make good business decisions and plan for the future. Now, there are many types of financial reports, but in this course, we're just going to focus on the profit and loss report for now because that's the one you're going to use most often. A profit and loss report shows you how profitable your business is by summarizing income earned minus expenses. This report shows you the net profit or net loss for a specific time period. For example, you can make a profit and loss report for the entire year or for just 1 month of business operations. You can also compare profit and loss reports from different months to see which month of the year you're most profitable in. Let's go into QuickBooks and learn how easy it is to create a profit and loss report. From the home page, I want to navigate over to Reports. And you can see here, QuickBooks gives me lots of different reports. But all the way on the top under Favorites is Profit and Loss. That's the one I want to show you for today. Now remember how I mentioned that the profit and loss report is for a specific date range? Up here is where you're going to put in the date range. It's already set to show me year to date, but I could either go here and select to see this week, this month, this quarter, or I can go over to the date and put in a custom date. Let's look at May's. And remember before how I talked about accounting method, whether you were cash or accrual accounting? This is where you want to select which one you're running the report for. Now, because I don't have any accounts receivable or accounts payable, I'm going to select cash. When I'm ready, I click Run Report. Here's my report for May. Another thing I want to show you is if you have a question about any of these items, you can go over to the amount, click on it, and it will take you to a screen where you can see all of the transactions. You can also even perform edits from this screen if you don't agree with which account it was categorized in, for example, or if you need to make a change to the date. Now, when I'm ready to export this, I can go over here and it gives me the option to either export to Excel or export to PDF. This allows me to save it on my desktop and share it with other people that might need to see the reports. For example, people who may request to see these reports would be bank lenders, your accountant or tax preparer, business advisors, and anyone interested in purchasing your business. You can also print from this screen, and you can email it to someone or yourself. One of the toughest things about doing your own financial recording and bookkeeping is finding the time to get organized and actually sit down and get those tasks done. I've created a neat little monthly task list that you can download after this course, which will help keep you organized and on schedule. Now, I know that bookkeeping can be very stressful, but one way to keep your stress levels down is by working in a plan where you're going to do your bookkeeping regularly. By regularly doing some housekeeping on your financial reports and on your record keeping, you're going to keep your stress levels down and you're going to be way more organized. You'll also have a way better idea of where you're at and what the health of your business looks like. So I've created this little monthly task list, and this is a downloadable Excel sheet that you'll get to use, and you can edit it in any way you want. But here's some suggestions on what tasks need to get done at what time each month. Up on the top left, you'll see by the first of the month, I want to do my income and my expense recording. So for both of these, I want to look back at the previous month and record any business income I received for that month, and then I do the same thing with the expenses. I would also upload or file any receipts for those business expenses, and I'd match them to the recorded expense transactions in QuickBooks like I showed you. Over on the right column, you can mark it as done when you've finished these tasks. By about the 10th of the month, you want to get your bank reconciliations done. By the 10th, you should have received your bank statements for the previous month. And since you know all the transactions have now been recorded, you can go into that reconciliation screen and do that reconciling. You don't want to wait and have it pile up and then have 6 months of bank statements to reconcile. And oftentimes by then, you may have already made some mistakes and it would be too late to remember what the accurate thing to record is. So it's better to stay on it and do it every month. Also, by the 10th of the month, you've finished all of the things for the previous month, so you can go ahead and generate that profit and loss report for you and export it to your desktop so you can save it in a file folder and have a profit and loss report for every month. Then at the end of the year for tax time, you can generate one for the whole year. Also, by about the 15th, it's a good idea to check in and see if you have any unpaid bills you need to take care of. You want to also check and see if you have any outstanding invoices. So check that all the clients are up to date on paying you and see if there's anything outstanding that's unpaid. Email follow-ups to clients who owe you money. And remember, there is a way when you make invoices in QuickBooks to set a reminder that will automatically go out to clients who have unpaid invoices. By the end of the month, you want to make sure you've issued customer receipts to all of your customers. Now remember, if they paid their invoice through QuickBooks, they will have already been issued a receipt. But all your other customers, you want to make sure you give them receipts. And I even like at the end of the year for regular customers to issue them all a customer statement showing what they've paid me throughout the entire year. That way I can make sure that my books match theirs. And that's kind of more dependent on what industry you're in. A little bit on troubleshooting, you'll get this slide as well, and I just want to show you that up in the upper right-hand corner on the home screen of QuickBooks, you can click Help at any time, and there's also a Contact Us button to get in touch with a QuickBooks expert.